Okay, Itamaksistiko, good day. It is Saturday afternoon, September 30th, 2017, the last day of September in the lunar cycle Awakasikitsum, the deer moon. And I'm wearing my orange shirt. It's orange shirt day. It's orange shirt weekend for me. and haven't had a lot of snake calls. It's been pretty quiet. Even the last few days it's been warm, but I think the snakes are mostly back at the dens now. I am getting reports out there of garter snakes and things like that. So I know there's still a little bit of movement, but it's supposed to cool down here most of the week. I think we're going to have sub-zero temperatures at night. So I don't know. The snake season might be over, and I'll be turning to making more kind of nature videos of other aspects of our ecology in the coulees. Today I'm just kind of taking it easy, and for a couple of hours today, or at least an hour, probably an hour and a half, I was involved in an online debate on Facebook. And the debate, which that's what I want to talk about in this video, the topic of that debate was around the character of Hugh Hefner. Now, Hugh Hefner, of course, died a few days ago. And every time there's a celebrity that dies, you see this wave of response online from people on Facebook and Twitter and such. You know, all the rest in pieces and that kind of thing. I even posted something. I don't usually do that when there's celebrity issues and stuff, but with Hugh Hefner I decided to do that. I mentioned how my mom had bought me a subscription to Playboy when I was like 14 or 15, and how she kept it active for me until I left home for the Army at 18. And you know, like I was an avid reader of Playboy for those years, and really enjoyed the articles. But I grew up in a way where, like, my parents were pretty, I don't know, like they didn't hide a lot from us. Like, I never saw them engaging in sex or anything, but I saw my parents naked forever, you know, as I was growing up. And I know my mom, she worked in a Playboy club at one point. I've seen pictures of her. Yeah, I've seen pictures of her serving cocktails in a bunny suit at a Playboy club when I was growing up. So I never thought of the whole world that Hugh Hefner built around Playboy. I never thought of it as anything bad, hey? But yesterday, this article starts spinning around the internet that's reminding people, oh, let's take a step back from our praise of Hugh Hefner at his death, and let's look at him in this other light and see that he's a misogynist, that he's a pervert, that, you know, he basically kept women, you know, at his mansion. He kept them, and it was, you know, some of the women have talked about how they felt like they couldn't leave, and that the gate of the mansion was not a gate to keep the public out; it was a gate to keep them inside. There was stuff in that article about, and I think this comes from one of his wives, one of his past wives. I think her name was Holly, and she said that, you know, he offered her and the other wives Quaaludes, asked them to take Quaaludes before a sex orgy that they had or something like that.
I want to point out something. It offered, it didn't force.
Yeah, it's different. It's not a Bill Cosby situation where he's like sneaking it into their drinks and then they wake up and they've been raped, you know. It's a totally different scenario. I mean, it's kinky to have a sex orgy on Quaaludes. That's kinky. But just to say that anybody that's had some sexual engagement with a woman while she's drugged up is a bad guy for that is goofy. Because if that's the case, you should close all the bars, because that's what the bars are largely about. You should make sure that husband and wives don't have a bottle of wine before they go to bed and, get frisky. Yeah, it's just goofy. So this article is going around trying to diminish the character of Hugh Hefner, and I couldn't hold my tongue entirely. I mean, not like I idolize the guy or anything, or not like I think he's some great hero or anything, but I just, at first, my first impression when I seen that article going around was that I just felt like it was kind of rude, The guy's just died. His body's not even cold yet. All of his close people to him are, I'm sure, mourning his death. And here, somebody's going to use it for this political reason. And I do think it's a political reason because, I'm trained in cultural anthropology, and so one of the things that I recognize is that part of the reason for this whole complex where we have celebrities is so that the celebrities can serve as an axis, as a focus point to debate, to bring our beliefs and our practices and our understandings and our feelings and all of this stuff, bring it out in the public and debate it, right? So it's not surprising to me that this is coming out with his death. But the kind of political faction that I think is bringing this out, I find them repulsive. I find them repulsive, and I think the reason is, for me, I see that what they're attacking is male sexuality. That's how I feel. Like every time you call Hugh Hefner a pervert, I think, but why? Oh well, all he did was, he was a big pimp, and he got women to get naked in front of a camera, and he sold that out to guys so that they could whack off in their socks and this kind of a thing. Well, guys whack off.
Apparently into their socks.
I don't know why the sock thing. That's never been one of my practices.
You're the one that brought it up.
I know, but though that's what I was actually told in part of my debate online, was the sock thing, right?
Why does it have to be only guys who are looking at it, though?
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. I know my mom, got that subscription for me because she likes Playboy magazine too.
Well, I know a lot of women throughout my life that read Playboy and enjoyed it. As a woman, and I'm obviously in a heterosexual relationship, but looking at another woman's body is not a bad thing. Women are beautiful, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, well, that's part of the debate too. Like, okay, Hugh Hefner, what did they call it when you're objectifies? He objectifies women and their bodies.
Well, the thing is that those women that are in the magazine, they participate in that objectification because they're the ones that willingly go and seek out being photographed for that magazine.
Yeah. Well, the vast majority of women in Western culture participate in objectification. They doll themselves up every day to go out into the world, and they're not dolling themselves up just for no reason. It's they're putting themselves out there to be looked at, hey, to be objects. And I think Hugh Hefner's even argued that when people have brought that up to him in the past in interviews and stuff. Well, you're said to objectify women. He's like, yeah, well, women are objects, right? Like men are going to be visibly attracted to women. That's in our DNA, okay? And so what I see as what was going on with Playboy and Hugh Hefner was it took everything about male sexuality and it just brought it into huge relief. It was just an exaggeration of all of it. And so here you have a guy who he's allowed to stay home in his pajamas with a herd of honeys around him, and he's filthy rich because he knows what guys like, so he puts it out there. And I found, you know, at least for the time that I subscribed to Playboy, and I'm sure it's still like this today, I found it very tasteful pornography. You know, he doesn't show vaginas and assholes or anything. It's very tasteful pornography, and not only that, it's not just pornography. The articles in Playboy are actually really good. Like, they supported really good writing. A lot of people who are, like, excellent writers, fiction writers, journalists and everything. If you could get something published in Playboy, man, it means that you're a really good writer. I know, like, some people made their break writing in Playboy. Vine Deloria, who's a real famous Native American scholar, he's passed away now, but he wrote an article called Anthropologists and Other Friends, and that became the crux of a book that he published that in Playboy, and it got all kinds of attention, and it actually kind of laid out the scheme for a lot of what was going to happen in postmodernism and deconstruction within the academy after that. I credit him with kind of giving those guys like Derrida and Foucault a lot of ideas, but nobody else credits him for that. By the way, that's just my thing. But that became, like, he turned that article and then he just broadened it and made a book called Custer Dies for Your Sins. It was a great book.
Stephen King published in Playboy.
Oh yeah, Neil Gaiman. Like, if you're a good writer, you want to get published in Playboy, right? Playboy had good articles and good porn, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And yeah, okay, so he's going to use that wealth that he made doing that, and he's gonna live this crazy kinky life where he gets to stay at home in his pajamas, and he has all these girls who've been plastic surgeryed all over the place, and they got the bigger boobs and the bigger mouths and all this stuff and the bigger butts, and he's gonna live with them, and he's gonna have 7 wives, you know. So what? He's not hurting anybody. Yeah, but that's the question, right? That's the question, because here he had this one wife, this Holly, who left. She's written a book. I think it's called, like, Down the Rabbit Hole or something like that, right? And she's claiming that she felt trapped. Like, she felt like being there, she was kidnapped, she had to stay there, she couldn't leave. She was drugged up to make sure she didn't leave. She was, asked to do all this kinky sex stuff. And so online, you get these kind of like feminist social justice people going off the hook, saying if he even did something wrong to her, to that one person, then he's a sexual assault, whatever, right? Criminal, basically. And so I was arguing with them, and they couldn't produce for me any real evidence, any like testimony where it looked to me to be anything criminal. It's perverted stuff, I guess, but it's the same stuff that all guys might, consider and think about and get turned on by, but Hugh Hefner just did it. I don't know. I think it's, to me, I think it's offensive. It's offensive because the guy just passed away, but of course they're going to use this as a moment to express some politics. So I can understand that, but what's more offensive to me is that their politics is trying to repress male sexuality, in my opinion, and I already think that male sexuality is repressed enough. I think it's been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down, and the whole social justice movement is pushing it further down. And now that Hefner's died and he can't defend himself, they're jumping out there and trying to convince us to redefine what he was and what he accomplished.
Well, without Hugh Hefner, women would probably be slaves to men right now. I mean, you look at what was being published about how a woman should behave in that time period, and what they, and Hugh Hefner said, no, women shouldn't just be waiting at the door trying to be all dolled up, looking, waiting for her husband with dinner on the table and whatever, and basically be his lackey. He said women are sexual beings too, and he really promoted a lot of equality with women. And you look at what he did at the time that he started it, at the time that was just the very beginning of I guess the sexual revolution of that time. And you look back now, and he basically changed the world. He changed the Western world into thinking differently about women, and thinking differently about the way that we treat women. Because, you look at the articles that were printed about how women should behave and how women should do this or that or whatever, and they're really degrading. They have this whole thing like, oh, you should be very quiet and, happy when your husband comes home, and, you should be dressed to the nines and whatever to look perfect, and, you should be this perfect housewife that's basically a slave to your husband and never have an opinion, never have a mind of your own, just do whatever your husband tells you to do. And then, never talking about sex, never talking about, a woman's role in that, and basically saying women should just lie there and take it, and have no participation in it. Oh, princess.
What is all the crying about?
I don't know. I think she sees her reflection in the window and she thinks there's a puppy stuck in there.
Oh, yeah.
She's crazy. But, you look at that, and then you look at how much the Western world changed after that. It was a huge shift. Like, there was a huge shift, suddenly you have the sexual revolution, and you have all this other stuff, and a lot of that was brought about by Hugh Hefner. Like, that couldn't have happened without Hugh Hefner, because he was kind of the catalyst for a lot of that.
Yeah.
And
him and Larry Flint.
Yeah, exactly. They were, they were the catalysts for women being seen as equals, women being seen as just as valid as men, and being an equal person, without the things that he did back then.
Yeah.
We might be living in a place where women, aren't allowed to leave the house without their man, or they're not allowed to hold a job, or they're not allowed to be CEOs.
Yeah, we could be like the Middle East.
Exactly, we could be living under Sharia law, and be wearing like big tents and covering ourselves up and whatever, because
he helped show, okay, a woman can get naked and show off her body to the public, doesn't make her
a bad person. Yeah.
And he had a lot of help doing this, hey? Like, he had, I remember when I was subscribed, he had Drew Barrymore, showing off, oh, I'm all grown up now, little E.T. girl, we hadn't heard from her for forever, and then she pops up in Playboy at 18 and looking good. And then you have, like, Madonna, right? Like, yeah. These aren't victims. These are feminist women in themselves, mm-hmm. doing that for a purpose, right?
Really, when you look at it, like, Madonna, in terms of celebrities, she is, like, one of the women that is, like, the epitome of feminism, and everybody applauds Madonna, everybody loves her, she's done all these great things for women, and Hugh Hefner helped her with that, and a lot of people have built their careers off of Hugh Hefner, just being in his magazine, or
Yeah.
even just being seen with him.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
A lot of people with their careers.
Not just anybody gets invited to the Playboy Mansion parties,
Exactly. So you have these people that basically would have no careers. These people that common people idolize nowadays, and those careers would not exist without Hugh Hefner, and without his forcing America into the sexual revolution that they had, during the 60s and 70s. Like, none of that would have happened without Hugh Hefner. And, we wouldn't be living the lives that we are living now without it, And, yeah, sure, there's, like, bad stuff that's happened, too, but, it's, with anything...
Life isn't clean.
Yeah, life isn't clean, and everything has a bad side. Yeah. Everything. Yes, pornography has a bad side, and yes, people do bad things, and they'll blame it on pornography, or they'll blame it on TV. People will murder somebody, and they'll say, "Oh, well, I was watching, I don't know, CSI or something, and I saw somebody get murdered, so I decided I was gonna go kill my whole family because of that." People do that kind of shit, and they try and blame it on, other things, and because they don't want to take personal responsibility for that.
Yeah, at least he kept his pornography, like, classy.
Yeah, he did. You look at anybody that's, when they talk about something that's classy, they will say Playboy is classy, because the women are not, represented in a disgusting way. They're represented, as beautiful women, and they're shown as being beautiful women, and that's, I think Hugh Hefner, in a lot of ways, was really a feminist, and he helped women hugely. Like, women, there are so many things that women couldn't do if it wasn't for his forward thinking at the time that he, when he first started this. Like, he was like, what, in his 20s or 30s or something when he first started? And that was like back in like the late 50s, early 60s, something like that, I mean, it's huge what he did for women. And in his own way, he was a feminist, and yeah, he's a pervert. All men are perverts. In my opinion, all men are perverts.
Yep.
And so
that's what really it's like, all the things that okay, this is perverted, that's perverted. All you're just talking about is male sexuality. You might as well say he was a man.
Yeah, but plenty of women are perverts too.
Yeah.
And so it's part of sexuality, and if you want to condemn him for being a man, well, then you might as well condemn yourself for being human.
Yep.
You might as well condemn yourself for being alive, and enjoying the comforts that we live in now, and being able to express our opinions. Because if this were back in the 50s or 60s, we would be really fighting just to even have an opinion, the right to have an opinion. And he really helped a lot of that come about. And I think people are really missing that when they're saying, "Oh, Hugh Hefner's a bad guy," and whatever.
Yeah.
They're really missing a lot of what he did for women, throughout his lifetime, really. And in my opinion, the women that went and became Playboy bunnies and lived at his mansion, they knew what they were getting into.
Everybody in the world knows what happens in that mansion.
Exactly. Exactly. You know that you're going there, you're going to get all these, perks just to sleep with an old man. You're going to get a beautiful mansion to live in. You're going to get all kinds of money. You're going to get cars. You're going to go shopping every day. You're going to, if you want plastic surgery, you'll get plastic surgery. You're going to have, all kinds of, like, everything you could ever want is there for you. All you gotta do is like, have sex with this old man every once in a while.
Yeah, and of course,
And
it's not going to be, nothing's perfect, right?
yeah,
So we're talking about his household.
hmm
And,
yeah,
and we're talking about a household where he has 7 wives.
hmm
So that's not going to be easy, right?
And-
There's going to be things that are wonky in there.
yeah, exactly. I mean, heck, I grew up in a house full of sisters, and and then there was my brother and my dad. And anytime you have women living together, it's going to be difficult. Anytime you have that amount of people living together, it's going to be difficult. So, if you're sore because, oh, I wasn't the only one, well, you knew you weren't the only one when you were going into it, right? And so, the things about, people complaining that Hugh Hefner was bad or this or that, whatever.
Yeah, it's just like having regrets. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, I had sex with somebody, now I have regrets about it, so I'm going to, like, try to make it seem like I was raped,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that, that kind of thinking is really damaging, because then you have, like false rape accusations coming up, and those are really damaging. When somebody has a false rape accusation, that's really damaging. That's really damaging to women as a whole. Every time a woman comes and has a false rape accusation, that's damaging. When you go with your eyes open, you go willingly into a situation like that, and then later you're going to say, oh, everything was bad and I was forced into it. You weren't forced into it. You knew what you were getting into when you went there, and you left. You left alive.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, you're not a victim.
She left alive. She left, with money. She left with a career. And then she decided to badmouth her benefactor, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a disgruntled employee.
Yeah, basically, she was a disgruntled employee, and, to me, it's ridiculous to say that Hugh Hefner was a horrible person and whatever, now that he's dead. I mean, if you had those complaints, why didn't you complain when he was alive?
Well, she did. She wrote a book.
No, I'm saying, like, all these other people that are suddenly complaining, why didn't you complain when he was alive? Yeah. Why didn't you try to protest him when he was alive?
Yeah, nobody cared. Everybody let that whole thing that was going on at the mansion, that everybody knew what was going on there. They let that happen for decades.
Knew that was basically prostitution.
Yeah.
And the women that were going into that situation, they knew that they were going there to be prostitutes, basically, for this old man.
Yeah, like classy prostitutes.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody in the world knew it was prostitution. But now you're going to complain after he's dead?
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't you complain when he was alive? Why didn't you do something when he was alive and say, oh, it's prostitution, let's shut it down? Nobody did that. And they let it go. And, now that he's dead, now you're going to turn around and say, oh, he's so bad and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous and stupid. And, and I'm sorry if, my dog is flashing his wiener at you.
I don't know if they could see him or not.
Likes to lay like that.
Yeah. He's perverted.